I woke up in a hospital bed with no memory of how I got there. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. My head was pounding. There was an IV in my arm and a taste in my mouth like copper and something else, something chemical. A doctor stood over me. Her face was grim. "Mr. Chen, you were in a car accident. You crossed into oncoming traffic." My chest seized. "Was anyone hurt?" She paused, the kind of pause that tells you the answer before the words come. "The other driver is in critical condition, 23 years old." I couldn't breathe. A police officer stepped into the room, uniform, badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. He was holding a notepad, but he wasn't writing anything. He was watching me. "We found an empty whiskey bottle in your car," he said. "Your blood alcohol was twice the legal limit." "That's impossible. The evidence says otherwise." "I don't drink. I haven't touched alcohol in 15 years. The officer's expression didn't change. "We hear that a lot. They arrested me from my hospital bed, handcuffed me to the rail while a nurse finished checking my vitals. DUI, reckless endangerment, vehicular assault. I was facing 20 years for something I didn't do. I'd been sober for 15 years, not a drop since my 27th birthday, when I woke up in a stranger's apartment with no memory of the night before and realized I was becoming my father. He'd been an alcoholic, the kind who drank through dinner, through weekends, through my childhood. He died of liver failure when I was 22. I stood at his funeral and promised myself I'd never end up like him. I kept that promise. 15 years of sparkling water at office parties, 15 years of ordering Diet Coke at restaurants while clients ordered wine, 15 years of explaining, "No thanks, I don't drink," without explaining why. My wife Sarah knew the whole story. She'd stood beside me through the early years, when the cravings were bad and the temptation was everywhere. She'd watched me build a new life, one day at a time. Now she was watching me get arrested for drunk driving. Sarah posted bail. The bondsman set it at $75,000. We put up the house as collateral, the house we'd spent 12 years paying off, the house where we'd raised our 2 kids. She didn't speak during the drive home. "You believe me, right?" I asked. She stared straight ahead, hands tight on the wheel. "I don't know what to believe." That hurt more than the handcuffs. The arraignment was set for 3 weeks out. My lawyer, a man named Marcus Thompson, who'd been practicing criminal defense for 22 years, met me in his office the day after I was released. "Walk me through the night," he said. I tried. "I left work at 6 p.m., stopped at a gas station on Route 7 to fill up. After that," I shook my head. "Nothing. I don't remember anything until I woke up in the hospital. The police report says you crossed the center line at approximately 6:47 p.m. The accident was half a mile from the gas station. I don't remember crossing anything. Your blood alcohol was 0.16. That's twice the legal limit. I didn't drink anything." Marcus set down his pen. "David, I've been doing this a long time. I've heard every story, but the evidence is what it is. Empty bottle in your car, blood test results. Witness says you were weaving before the collision. Someone did this to me." He looked at me for a long moment. "You have anyone who'd want to frame you for DUI?" I thought about it, and then I knew. Greg Patterson, my business partner's brother, a financial analyst who'd worked at our firm for 3 years before I caught him embezzling. It was 18 months ago. I'd noticed discrepancies in the quarterly reports, small amounts at first, then larger, invoices for vendors who didn't exist, payments to shell companies that traced back to accounts in Greg's name. He'd stolen $340,000 over 2 years. I took the evidence to the board. They called the police. Greg was arrested, tried, and convicted. He got 90 days in county jail, a slap on the wrist for what he'd done, but it was a first offense, and his lawyer argued mitigating circumstances. On the day of his sentencing, Greg turned and looked at me from the defense table. "I'm going to destroy you," he said quietly. "Everything you have, everything you love. I'm going to take it all." I thought it was just talk, the desperate threat of a man who'd been caught. I was wrong. I went back to that night, left work at 6 p.m., stopped at the gas station on Route 7, then nothing. The gas station had cameras. Every gas station has cameras. I drove there the next morning and asked to speak with the manager, a woman named Patricia Chen, no relation, who'd been running the place for 8 years. "I need to see your security footage from 3 nights ago," I said. "Around 6 p.m. "You're the guy who hit that girl," she said. It wasn't a question. "I'm the guy who was framed. Please, I just need to see the footage." She studied me for a long moment, then she led me to the back office. The footage showed everything. Me pulling into the station at 6:03 p.m., getting out of my car, walking inside to pay. While I was inside, a figure approached my car. Male, medium build, baseball cap pulled low. He opened my driver's side door, I'd left it unlocked like an idiot, reached inside, did something I couldn't see, and walked away. 13 seconds. That's all it took. I froze the frame, enhanced it as much as the grainy footage would allow. The man turned slightly as he walked away, and for a single frame, his face was visible. Greg Patterson Patterson. I took the footage to the police. Detective Raymond Okonkwo, 14 years with the department, agreed to review it. He watched the video 3 times, then leaned back in his chair. That's definitely someone approaching your car, and I can see why you think it's Patterson. It is Patterson, maybe, but the angle is bad. The resolution is worse. A defense attorney would argue we can't positively identify the suspect. He opened my door. He put something in my car. 20 minutes later, I crashed with an empty whiskey bottle in my vehicle. I understand what you're suggesting, but the footage doesn't show what he put in the car. Could have been anything. They brought Greg in anyway. I watched through the one-way glass. He denied everything, smiled through the whole interview. Prove it, he said, leaning back in his chair like he was discussing the weather. That footage doesn't show what I put in the car. Could have been anything. A gift for an old colleague. A note wishing him well. His smile widened. You can't charge a man for walking up to a car. They let him go. My lawyer called that night. We need more, David. Without concrete evidence linking Patterson to the whiskey, this goes nowhere. The footage shows a man approaching your car. It doesn't show him putting alcohol inside. It doesn't show him tampering with anything. A good defense attorney will argue it could have been anyone, doing anything, for any reason. So what do I do? Find more evidence, or prepare for trial. I hung up, sat in the dark for hours. Then I started hunting. I pulled Greg's social media. His Facebook was mostly private, but his Instagram was public. Check-ins at restaurants, photos at bars, the curated life of a man who wanted people to think he was doing fine. I scrolled back through 18 months of posts, before the arrest, during the trial, after his release. 3 weeks before my accident, he'd posted a photo at a liquor store, just him and a friend, holding up bottles, grinning like idiots. The caption, stocking up for the weekend. The location tag, Morrison's Fine Spirits, 3 blocks from his apartment. I drove there the next morning. The clerk was a kid, maybe 22, bored eyes, slumped shoulders, the look of someone counting down the minutes until his shift ended. I'm looking for purchase records, I said. A man named Greg Patterson. He probably paid cash. The clerk shook his head. Can't help you without a warrant. I slid $200 bills across the counter. How about now? He looked at the money, looked at me, looked at the money again. What's the name? Greg Patterson. He typed it into the computer, scrolled through results. Yeah, he's in here. Uses our rewards card sometimes. Bought 4 bottles of whiskey 3 days before. Let me see. October 17th. October 17th. The night of my accident. What brand? He squinted at the screen. Maker's Mark. All 4 bottles. The same brand found in my car. Can you print that? That's gonna cost extra. I slid another $50 across the counter. I kept digging. Found a mechanic named Robert Chen, also no relation, who ran a repair shop near my office building. He'd seen Greg Patterson in the parking garage twice in the week before my accident. Weird guy, Robert said. I saw him, under some cars. Thought maybe he was looking for something he dropped, but he was under there for a while. 10, 15 minutes. Do you remember which cars? One of them was a black BMW. Nice car. I remember because I was thinking, guy like that shouldn't be crawling around under a car like that. My car was a black BMW. I found a coworker, Jennifer Walsh. She'd been with the firm for 6 years, who'd spotted Greg following me home twice. I didn't think anything of it at the time, she said. But yeah, I saw him behind you on Route 7 about a week before the accident. And again 2 days later. Same car, same guy. I built a file. The gas station footage, the liquor store receipt, Robert's statement about the parking garage, Jennifer's account of being followed, dates, witnesses, receipts, a pattern of surveillance and preparation. Then I called a reporter. Her name was Amanda Rodriguez, investigative journalist at Channel 7 News. 12 years in the business. A reputation for stories that made people uncomfortable. I laid everything out on her desk. I was framed for drunk driving, I said. The man who did it is Greg Patterson. I caught him embezzling from my company 18 months ago. He went to jail. He swore revenge, and now he's tried to destroy my life. Amanda looked at the evidence, flipped through the documents, watched the gas station footage 3 times. This is good, she said finally, but it's not quite enough. We need something that definitively links Patterson to the whiskey in your car. The liquor store receipt shows he bought the same brand. That's suggestive, not conclusive. She tapped her pen on the desk. Do you have anything else? Anything that proves intent? I didn't. Not yet. The story ran anyway. 2 days before my trial. Channel 7 News, 6 p.m. broadcast. Local man framed for DUI by vengeful ex-employee. Greg's face filled the screen. His mug shot from the embezzlement case. The gas station footage playing on a loop, Amanda's voice narrating the circumstances. David Chen, 42, a financial executive with no history of alcohol use, is facing serious charges after a car accident that left a young woman in critical condition, but new evidence suggests he may have been the victim of an elaborate frame job by a man with a grudge. The piece included interviews with Robert the mechanic, Jennifer the co-worker, Patricia the gas station manager, and it included Greg's smug face from the police interrogation saying, "Prove it." By noon, the prosecutor's office had opened an investigation. By evening, they'd obtained a warrant to search Greg's apartment. They found the notebook, 47 pages of planning, my work schedule, the routes I drove, the times I left the office, notes on my daily patterns, my habits, my routines, and instructions he'd printed from the internet. How to introduce alcohol vapor through a car's ventilation system. He'd rigged my car to pump whiskey fumes through the vents while I drove. I'd been breathing alcohol for 20 minutes before I even got on the road. That's why I couldn't remember anything. That's why my blood alcohol was twice the legal limit. That's why I'd crossed the center line. He hadn't just wanted me arrested. He'd tried to kill me. The charges against me were dropped the same day. The prosecutor, a woman named Sandra Mitchell, 20 years with the district attorney's office, called my lawyer personally. "We're dismissing all charges," she said. "Given the evidence of tampering and the clear pattern of premeditation, we have no choice but to conclude that Mr. Chen was the victim of a deliberate and malicious attack." I was standing in Marcus's office when he took the call. "It's over," he said after he hung up. "You're clear." I sat down. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. What about Greg? "They're arresting him now." Greg was arrested live on the evening news. 2 officers, handcuffs. The perp walk that had become so familiar from crime dramas, except this time it was real, and this time the man in cuffs was the one who'd tried to destroy my life. The charges were extensive: attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice. His bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't pay it. The trial lasted 4 days. I sat in the front row, every single one. The prosecutor laid out the evidence methodically: the gas station footage, the liquor store receipt, the notebook, the printouts about alcohol vapor, the statements from Robert and Jennifer and everyone else who'd seen Greg stalking me in the weeks before the accident. Greg's defense attorney, a man named Michael Torres, same lawyer who'd gotten him 90 days for embezzlement, tried to argue circumstantial evidence, tried to suggest that someone else could have planted the notebook, tried to claim the footage was inconclusive. The jury didn't buy it. They deliberated for 3 hours. When they read the verdict, I held my breath. On the count of attempted murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. On the count of assault with a deadly weapon, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of evidence tampering, we find the defendant guilty. Greg turned and looked at me. His eyes were hollow, broken. The smug confidence that had carried him through the police interrogation was gone. I didn't look away. The judge, Patricia Hernandez, 18 years on the bench, delivered the sentence 3 weeks later. "Mr. Patterson, you engaged in a calculated, premeditated campaign to destroy an innocent man's life. You stalked him. You tampered with his vehicle. You introduced a substance into his car that impaired his ability to drive safely, resulting in a collision that nearly killed a 23-year-old woman." She paused. This was not a crime of passion. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment. This was months of planning, executed with cold precision, designed to frame another human being for your own vengeance. Greg stood motionless at the defense table. "I sentence you to 28 years in state prison. You will not be eligible for parole for 12 years. 28 years. For trying to take everything from me." After the sentencing, a reporter caught me outside the courthouse. "Mr. Chen, how does it feel to have your name cleared?" I thought about the weeks I'd spent being called a drunk, a criminal, a monster who'd nearly killed a young woman. I thought about the way my wife had looked at me like I was a stranger. I thought about Greg's smug smile in that interrogation room. "Prove it," he'd said. "He thought he could take everything from me," I said. my freedom, my reputation, my family. I looked directly into the camera. He forgot that I'm the one who caught him the first time. The reporter tried to ask a follow-up question. I was already walking away. Sarah was waiting by the car. She took my hand. For the first time in weeks, her grip felt warm. Certain. "It's over," she said. I opened her door for her, walked around to the driver's side, got in. For a moment, we just sat there. "I'm sorry I doubted you," she said quietly. "You had every reason to doubt." "No, I didn't. 15 years, David. 15 years of watching you fight every day to stay sober. I should have known. The evidence looked bad. The evidence was wrong." She reached over and took my hand again. "I should have believed you. I should have fought for you from the beginning instead of wondering." I squeezed her hand. "You're here now. That's what matters." The 23-year-old recovered. Her name was Michelle Torres. She spent 6 weeks in the hospital, then 4 months in rehabilitation. Multiple surgeries, physical therapy, the kind of recovery that leaves scars even after the wounds heal. I met with her 3 months after the trial. She didn't have to agree to see me. I wouldn't have blamed her if she'd refused. But she said yes. We sat in a coffee shop near her apartment. She was thin, pale, still walking with a slight limp. "I wanted to apologize," I said. "What happened to you wasn't your fault. I was driving the car. You were poisoned." She stirred her coffee slowly. "I read all the trial transcripts. I know what he did. You couldn't have known. Still, you almost died because of something that started with me." She looked at me for a long moment. "I almost died because a man couldn't accept the consequences of his own choices. That's not on you." I didn't know what to say. "Go home, Mr. Chen." She smiled, just slightly. "Live your life. Stop carrying guilt for something you didn't do. Greg Patterson writes me letters from prison, one every few months, same handwriting, same rambling accusations about how I ruined his life. I've never opened a single one. I already know what they say. He wants me to feel guilty, to accept responsibility for his choices, to somehow believe that my catching him stealing $340,000 was the real crime, and his attempt to kill me was justified revenge. He's going to be waiting a long time for that. It's been 2 years since the trial. Sarah and I renewed our vows last summer, not because we had to, our marriage survived the worst test it could face, but because we wanted to. A quiet ceremony, just us and the kids and a handful of friends who'd stood by us through everything. I'm still sober, 16.5 years now. The cravings are mostly gone, replaced by something calmer. A quiet certainty that I made the right choice all those years ago when I decided not to become my father. Michelle Torres sent me a card last month. She's engaged, getting married in the spring. She invited me to the wedding. I'm going to go. Greg thought he could destroy me. He thought he could take my freedom, my reputation, my family. He thought I'd be too broken, too confused, too overwhelmed to fight back. He forgot one important thing. I'm the one who caught him the first time. He's spending 28 years finding out how that worked out for him.